You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma stories through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof. Let's get into today's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode down at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame today with a live audience. And you can't tell, but I'm so nervous. First time we've had a live audience. It's not nervous for my guest because she's used to playing in front of thousands of people. But for me, with 8 people in here, I'm shaking uncontrollably. But thankfully, I have some great assistants running the camera for me. And yeah, it's been great to do some podcasts in the Hall of Fame. But you're not here to listen to me ramble. You're here to listen to my guest who, is just incredible. Let's just start with that. But Darci Lynne Farmer is here to do the podcast with me.
Hello, everybody.
See, you're totally used to it. I'm not. But thank you so much for coming down. Obviously, really appreciate you taking time out of your
Thank you for having me.
Super busy schedule. Touring around now. You have your own tour and you're hitting the road a lot.
And
which
can't
is probably,
forget school.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Mom and Dad did tell you to say that. It's all right. But, you've been touring a lot, and the good thing is that, you're back to doing shows compared to all the stuff that everybody in the industry has been dealing with over the last few years, which I'm sure it's great to be back on the road. But tell us about, current life at the moment before we go back into all your story. What is what's what have you been up to?
Current life? Well, I'll rewind a little bit. It's been 5 years since I've won. So, it's just been a whirlwind of 5 years. I went straight into hitting the road and touring at 13. And that was something that I had to navigate. It was crazy. Right. And so, but I've been touring for about 5 years now. I've been to 48 states, which is crazy for a 17-year-old. For anybody to travel to 48 states. And, I've just done lots of stuff in between too. But yeah, these last 5 years have changed my life completely. And now I'm still trying to figure out who I am. Got into acting, writing music, doing all the things.
All of the things, which is great that you have mom and dad around you to take care of things and make the decisions. I had a short conversation with your dad earlier about up until you turn 18, then the decisions are legally yours. We'll see how that goes.
We'll see. But
you mentioned, traveling a lot, going to 48 states. Is there anything you do at each state to kind of get a memento or grab a hat or something when you travel?
I kind of regret not having a fun tradition to do in every city when we started. Because when I was 13, we were out on the road, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm performing at the Ryman. This is cool. Yeah. Not like, now I appreciate it a little more as I get older. But me and my parents like to find, I love coffee. I shouldn't. And I would love to find a coffee shop that's cool. That's not Starbucks, something different everywhere we go. But I've been to some pretty interesting places. For sure.
Is there any that stand out? Because a lot of people probably don't realize. You travel, it's like planes, hotels, stage, and then gone, right?
Sometimes it's like that, and then sometimes it's not. We went to Portland, Oregon. Oh my God, did I just say Oregon?
Mum said Maine. You're good.
But that's a place, right?
Yeah.
I'm right. Portland, Maine. Yeah. But it's the other Portland. And we took a little boat to this island right off, and it was called Peaks Island, Maine. And it was the coolest thing ever. We biked around the whole entire island and visited this bunker, and it started raining, and I sang in the bunker. Like, the acoustics were incredible. It was so cool. And where else? We've been to Florida, got to go to Universal and Disneyland in California, we've just been everywhere.
Because of your rising status, do you get not just a pass to go, do you get the park to yourself sometimes?
No, I haven't gotten to do that yet. Honestly, it kind of just playing it normal. at the parks,
Yeah.
you know. I don't mind the lines. We have fun games that we play in the lines. You know that app where it's like heads up.
Yeah.
You have to act it out. And it's so fun because we've started trends in the lines where people see us playing it and they'll start playing it.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like it.
Do you just throw a ball cap on and try and go a little understated rather than like, here, it's me. I
Yeah,
won America's Got
it's-
Talent. My puppet's right here. Like,
It's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
Usually in like theme parks, there's so much going on where I don't usually get recognized pretty much there, but sometimes it's I can't walk like 10 steps sometimes.
yeah.
But it's just really just hit or miss. But,
Comes with the territory, I guess.
yeah.
Right?
But it's funny. I mean, whenever I kind of have a sixth sense now, it's like I can just see when it's about to happen because I'll make eye contact with someone and it's either like one of three things. They'll do a double take or they'll get out their phone and they're like looking, and they couldn't be more obvious about it. And I just love it, and it's fun, especially the kids because their face is just like,
Yeah. But I think a lot of people probably forget that. I mean, you're 17 years old. Like you're 5-6 years as you know, you're still a child, right? You still want to go do normal things that any
Yeah.
child growing up would do, and it's really cool that you still kind of focus on that stuff, and you know, you don't just you still enjoy your childhood, right?
yeah. I've had a lot of normalcy in my life these last 5 years, and a lot of not.
Right.
But I think what kind of helped me stay grounded is, you know, after I won, we didn't move out to California or Hollywood. You know, I stayed home, and I still went to school for a while, which was weird, but it was good for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I go to church every Wednesday night, you know, when I can and when I'm home, and I just definitely think having such a supportive family and good friends here, just roots here, helped me really just stay true to who I am, even though my whole entire life just completely changed.
Right. Yeah. It keeps you grounded, right? And you don't have to worry about. You know, it's nice to have normal conversations, right? And I'm sure there was a time where all of your friends were asking you, who have you met this weekend? Like, what stars did you meet? Like, what's that life like? And then it kind of wears off.
You know, it was kind of not the opposite, but when right after I won, I came back, went to school, and, you know, for a while, you know, I would get a little couple stares in the halls. But these kids have gone to school with me for, like 7 years now or whatever. And, you know, it's just Darci. Oh, Darci's back. She's back. She won that show, but she's back. And it's just kind of felt, at school, I felt super normal. And it's like I was living completely different lives. I like to call it real life Hannah Montana. Because, you know, in middle school, I'd go to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, leave on a Friday, sell out a show on a Saturday and a Sunday, and then come back home on a Monday and go back to school.
Homework's due on Monday.
And I just take a math test, you know, just do like regular things. And then, but I'm like Darci Lynne on the road. It's crazy.
Yeah. To that point, do you kind of enjoy going back to school? Because it's kind of normality, and you get to be with your friends, and you kind of away from just the lights, and you're just like, oh, I just get to be me now.
Yeah, truly, yeah. It was a good balance. It was really good, and but it got to a point where I kind of had to make some sacrifices if I wanted to really see where this could go, and so that's when freshman year I decided to do online through Deer Creek, my public school. But still do everything online. So it's kind of cool. I still get the perks. I still get to go to the dances and the pep rallies. And if I wanted to do sports, which I won't, I could. So
I guess we'll go back to kind of where this starts for you. And, you know, people you've done, I'm sure, a million interviews and people can read about it. But just for context of people listening, why and how does someone at a young age get into ventriloquism, being a ventriloquist, you know, over all the other stuff that could have been out there? And I mean, thankfully it probably wasn't. Thanks to mum and dad, it's not video games and all the other stuff that you know, kids your age are probably doing as well. But why did you decide to have, you know? You know,
yeah, definitely is not common. It wasn't. It just truly is not something kids pick up. You know, they're like, I want to learn ballet or soccer,
ride a pony.
But I was like, no, I want to sing with puppets. So I was super shy as a kid, as painfully shy, and just hadn't, you know, really come out of my shell yet. And so truly they were kind of worried about me. And so they kind of put me in this little pageant system where I could meet other girls and make new friends. And it was a good program where if you won, you could get scholarship money for college or something like that. But I met a girl through that system who did ventriloquism for her talent portion. And I was around 9 at the time. And I had never seen it before. And I had never heard of it. It was insane. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so, I was probably the most annoying little kid to this girl because I asked her about a million questions. And for tips and pointers and where did she get her puppets and this and that. Because I was just so, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And so when I hit 10, I had been really getting interested into it. And so I begged my parents for a puppet. I was like, please, can I get a puppet in there? And they said no. Literally.
I'm
just for throwing context, you out of the bus.
How much are these puppets?
Exposing you right now. They said no. Because at the time, I was doing gymnastics. And so, a lot of people don't know this about me. And I did gymnastics for a little over 5 years, almost 6 years, and was training. I wanted to go to the Olympics.
Okay.
I was a pretty good little gymnast. And so that's what I was doing, my passion. And I had 3 brothers in school, and they were like, we don't have enough on our plate for this. And I was so persistent. And so they surprised me with one from eBay for like $30 on my 10th birthday, and that is how it all started.
So young girl Darci was like, I want to go to the Olympics. I'm going to be. You mentioned not doing sports earlier, but I mean,
but that was my
tumbling
sport.
is one of the. Tumbling is a sport.
And it was crazy because when I told my coaches, I was like, I want to quit to sing with puppets. They thought I was absolutely crazy, and actually had me sit down with them and my parents to try, to convince me not to quit gymnastics because they thought I was crazy and they knew I was super good. But I was like, no. I was so firm about it. My 11-year-old self, it was crazy. I don't know, something in me. I was like, this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do. And just had a really gut feeling. And so I quit, and I don't regret it at all.
It's paid off, right?
It has.
So back to, because I think there's a lot of things that you can compare with being a gymnast and doing what you do because of how much time and dedication you have to spend being a gymnast, because it's not easy, and it takes a lot of confidence to tumble and and do that stuff.
When I was doing gymnastics, I look back on it now and I'm like, how did I do that? Because we trained for 33 hours a week. Yeah. So I actually, did online school for a very short time with gymnastics. And, it was crazy. We had like 2-a-days where we'd go for 4 hours in the morning to the afternoon and then have a lunch break and then go from like 5 to 8. It was crazy. Yeah. And, it really truly did help me with my discipline and practicing for the show because, AGT is so just everything is in motion and you have to be so prepared and practice a lot. Yeah. I mean, that's I think the hardest I've ever worked ever in my life.
Wait, what gymnastics school did you go to?
I went to this gym called Dynamo. Okay. It's a good gym. They're serious there, and I love it. And they've had some really, really successful gymnasts come out of it. But yeah.
So at this time, then you meet this friend who you're doing pageant stuff as well, and you meet this friend that's they're ventriloquists for their talent and the pageants, and you think, wow, like I got to get into this. You're already singing though at this point, right? You're already I want to be a performer. I like singing. Were you singing at church at a young age? Like how does that kind of transition?
Yeah, I mean, singing was always kind of a side hobby for me at that point. It was something I really enjoyed, but I hadn't quite found the confidence that I have now with it. Mm-hmm. I was performing on in the pageants. Yeah. I was just singing, and I would sing in church with my mom a lot. We sung in church a lot together, and that was fun. I mean, she was kind of my initial inspiration for singing because she's a magnificent singer. And so that's how singing kind of, I would sing around the house, and she'd be like, to my dad, she'd be like, Clark, we have a singer. But yeah, and then when ventriloquism came around, I was just, all right, why not?
Yeah.
Why not just being a singing ventriloquist? You know, people ask me like, well, how did you just start? I don't even know sometimes. Like, I can't even explain it to you how this came about. It just did. I think it's definitely divinely influenced, for sure.
Right. I mean, you look at people who are successful and there's generally something that's natural there, and then they work at that natural talent that they've got. What was that kind of, I mean, do you come down, you know, you're living with mom and dad, do you just come down one day or you're in your bedroom and you're just like, I'm crushing it with this singing stuff, but you can't tell I'm singing because I'm like, is there a moment that you're like, Mom, look at what I've been working on for the last 3 weeks?
No, there was. You know, what I did is I would practice in my mirror all the time, or I'd film myself and then watch it back because I could like see what I was doing wrong and what looked right and what didn't look right. And I would come out and I would, you know, do something for them with my mouth closed, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's great, honey. that's great." And
it's not going to pay the bills
really
9 to 5 when you graduate.
They truly thought it would be a passing fad.
Yeah.
It wasn't a passing fad at all.
Well,
so,
like you said earlier, you quit being a gymnast and following that early dream and passion to go to the Olympics to be a ventriloquist, and then you start, I guess, putting it into practice, and you know, you're performing at pageants. You know, does it get to, obviously it gets to a stage where you think, I'm going to just up the competitions I'm in now? And I mean, I don't know this, and forgive me for not knowing this, but how long had America's Got Talent been out before you entered that?
How long had it been running?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was the 12th season.
Okay.
So
you're clearly aware of what it was then when it came out. Okay.
Me and my family watched it all the time. I mean, every time it came out. And I remember watching Paul Zerden win, and he was the ventriloquist. And then the next year, Grace Vanderwall won. And then I think after that, you know, it was kind of interesting seeing Paul Zerden, a ventriloquist, which is what I was super interested in and pursuing it at the moment. And then the next year, seeing a girl my age win. And I was like, if they can do this, you know, maybe I can do this. And I told my parents, I was like, I want to be on America's Got Talent. And they were like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because they can be so mean on there. And I know they were looking out for my best interest. They're like, are you positive you want to do this? And I was like, yes. It was so just like, yeah, I want to do it. And so I sent in a video audition, and they saw it and they loved it. We were like, we want to see you in person. I think they thought I wasn't actually doing it, and that's why they wanted to see me in person. So the closest audition city was Austin, Texas. And so we drove to Austin, Texas, which really isn't that close to here. And I performed in this room in front of these big dog producers who at the time I didn't realize were the two main producers of the show. And you know, I brought my A game. I brought everything. I even brought a puppet that I hadn't really developed. And I told them about it. It was a British bird. And I had no material with this bird at all whatsoever. I only had a name and an accent. And they were like, we want to see Nigel the bird. And I was like,
Nigel's the most British name ever as well.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I brought him out and just started talking. And I don't know. They ended up loving it. And I think about a month later, they were like, we want you on the actual audition show. And we were screaming and crying and all of that.
Yeah.
And then flew out to Pasadena and did that whole thing. And that was so surreal.
Because a lot of people, like, sometimes they film those stages that you just mentioned, right? And then they like, that's probably where mum and dad were kind of protecting you, is because some of the time they film the idiots, and the idiots get through because they make great TV, right? And they, you know, that's when they can be mean because someone's like really believes they can do something and they're awful, but they're there for great TV.
Yeah, I'm sure that's definitely part of the reason why they were so apprehensive
cool,
about it.
It's cool though that you like do those stages kind of, you know, with just people, and then they throw you into the show. And off you walk onto that stage, and obviously it unfolds like we all know it unfolds. Yeah.
I mean, I think aside from them being super apprehensive about it, I mean, they were so supportive too. It was so like, oh, you know, they wanted me to be successful because, you know, they love me, I think. And so it was a good atmosphere for me overall, but it really truly was so stressful too, because I look back on it now, I don't know how I did that when I was 12. You know, I don't think I could go do the show again because it was so stressful.
Well,
but it was
the good thing that probably worked in your favor was the fact that you were 12 and you weren't super just enjoying yourself, right?
Well,
part of you was enjoying yourself.
Part of me,
and oblivious to everything else.
The other part of me, walking onto the stage for the first time, I had only performed for 500 people max before, and I go out and it's 3,000 people, but it's also broadcasted to 14 million people. So that was absolutely terrifying. Before, especially the live performances, because you mess up, you can't do it again. Right. And so I just remember almost puking every time before I went on, because that's how nervous I was. And I would shut down completely, not talk to anyone before I went on. And I remember sometimes they would have me go last. And I would be so upset.
That's the worst, right? Because you got to hang around and watch everybody.
Because I got to watch everyone do theirs.
Yeah.
And just dread mine. But, once I got up there, though, the nerves usually disappeared. Because then I'm in my element and people are cheering. I'm like, okay, well, this is actually fun.
Yeah.
And then after, it's relief.
To that point, talk a little bit about that shutting down and that inner process that you have, because you're only speaking to yourself at that point, and just that kind of what you do to get yourself ready. Do you still get those nerves before you go on stage? Is there something that you do every single time before you go on stage, to get that process and get in your own head? What is that?
Well, first of all, I always pray with my parents, and I do this with my band too, who travels with me. And so that is always just kind of all right, game mode. I pray over the performance, my nerves, and kind of just tell myself to have fun too, because that's what it's all about. It's just having fun up there, and that's what I love to do. But it's terrifying. But yeah, praying honestly is my backstage thing that I do.
Yeah, that makes it real. Ready to go. It's go time.
Ready to go.
And then do you I play golf, so I'm superstitious, very superstitious, and there's certain things that I do. Do you enter the stage from the same side every time? Is there anything quirky that you do that's other than praying?
No. I don't have any superstitions.
Yeah.
I kind of just do little hops, jump up and down a little bit, get myself ready. But yeah, praying, honestly, we haven't done a show without praying before it. So I think that's definitely a stick that's gonna happen before every show.
And you mentioned your band travels with you. You can give a shout out to your band. Who's in the band?
Shout
Where are they
out
from?
to the band. My band, I love these guys. They're a bunch of grandpas. We call me Darci Lynne and the grandpas.
So they're in their 30s and 40s, right?
No. So we got Matt Shinsky. He plays keys. He's amazing. Steve Short is on the drums. Steve Hawkins on guitar. And Victor Rook on bass. And they're the bomb. They have really mentored me throughout the years. And, when we were kind of choosing a band, that was the whole vision, was someone who could mentor me and kind of help me step into the shoes of leading my own band, and how that works, and how to, take command sometimes, and because that was a little hard for me to kind of speak up about what I wanted and envisioned for my shows and for myself, and so they really truly helped with that.
Yeah,
sure.
the kind of leading a band dynamic, especially with the age difference and gender and all the other stuff going on, and that must have been, that's great when it's good to have a support network around you that can help you all get in the same room, make decisions together, because that's why most bands fail, right? Is because someone makes decisions they don't like it.
We're all a really great team. Everyone always has really good ideas. But what I love most about this show that I'm doing right now, and it's the third show I've done. My lips are sealed, except when they're not. And this one is super special to me because it has a lot of me just influenced into it, because with my shows in the past, I was so young, and so I had a lot of help, bringing those shows together, and putting that into what it would look like. But this show truly was my vision. It was my little baby project, and so I was super proud of it. But it's crazy though. We have such an interesting family dynamic. It's been kind of like a family business these last few years because me and my parents and my ventriloquist coach, which I can talk to you about, and even my brothers, we have kind of built this show up from the ground.
Yeah.
And we have had round table Zooms writing material for it. We all wrote about 23 pages worth of comedy material for this new show. And my mom is creative with the songs, and me, we do that together as we pick out the songs, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And once my brother took a gap year and ran my merch for a year. So it's like everybody's a part of it.
As long as he's making money, that's okay, right? If he's
True.
He's buying T-shirts and selling them for a little less than he's buying them for, we got a problem. Back to that, that first time when you're winning, you're 12 years old, right? When you win. And is it Mel B hits the golden buzzer and everything goes crazy?
Yeah.
And, I know Simon's there, and Simon had an X Factor, was basically America's Got Talent in the UK. And he was always like mean and just, kind of played that role. One thing I noticed though, when that buzzer goes off, cameras on you, cameras are on Mum, you're both in tears, but you kind of keep the act going even though you're crying. So it's like, that's, because you're 12 years old, a lot of people would have been like, I've made it, the buzzer's gone off.
Yeah.
I can kind of, I don't have to be me still on set. I'm not still in my, in my craft. You kind of kept your craft, which is super interesting. I don't know if you realized it at the time,
No,
but
I
you
didn't.
did.
No.
It's like your lips are sealed the whole time, and like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That day was just, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't like watching myself, so I've only gone back on YouTube and watched that audition only a couple times. But that was just crazy. I just never would have expected that because, my goal going on the show was to just bring light to ventriloquism because it was such a dying art and no one knew about it, and especially wanted to show kids that were my age and peers, and so that was the whole goal, and I just didn't know if people would appreciate it like I did. And so for them to just like stand and just cheer and clap for me, it was crazy. Like, it was so surreal. It's like a movie, honestly.
Well, and then you can center it back to why you started, and because you were shy and this helped you get into it, that like, you're not just like, hey, I'm up here, I'm pushing ventriloquism, I'm pushing it because it's helped me do anything. They're not just, you relate to a lot of people that way because everyone's shy, generally, some people mask it better than others.
Yeah.
But
It's cool because, after the show and I started touring, my shows, I see it's multi-generational. You see kids from like ages 3 to 93, and it's great. And the kids, I've seen so many of them bring their own puppets to my show and to the meet and greets, and they'll be like, Darci, you inspired me to do ventriloquism.
Yeah.
I started learning this because of you. And it's so many. I'm like, what? Like, this is the whole goal.
Right.
And so it's cool. And there is a ventriloquist convention. I know. I had never heard of it before either, because you just don't hear about that.
how many times have you headlined that convention now?
I actually, they have these shows at the convention where they have like the popular or, the experienced ventriloquists who get to perform on the Saturday night show, right? And I was the first kid who ever got to perform on the Saturday night show at the ventriloquist convention. So that was pretty cool. That was a big deal to me. And but it's kind of more nerve-wracking than performing for other people because these people know how to do ventriloquism, and so they're like really watching you, if that makes sense, to see what you're doing. And so that was fun though.
Yeah. So you win, the world goes crazy, your world's basically tipped upside down, and you immediately hit the road to do probably a press tour straight away. Is that right? And then you have your show in Vegas?
Yeah, I did a lot of press the very next day. I remember I won. A lot of family and a lot of friends came to LA to watch, and so we had like a big steak dinner. Steak's my favorite, And then I just remember having to wake up so early, like at 5 a.m. to do 13 radio interviews. And it was just like, what is happening? And then I was like on Access Hollywood and Good Day LA and then Ellen.
Yeah.
It was just so weird. It was crazy. And then, the Vegas show was something in itself too. That was a process and it was awesome. I remember you get 2 shows, but the 2 shows that I had sold out in 6 minutes. And so they added a third, and then that one sold out in a day, and then they finally added a fourth. So potentially I got to have 4 shows at Planet Hollywood.
Is that one every night, or is that like over the weekend?
Right? It was one every night.
Thursday through Sunday, one every night?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But that was just crazy.
So you spent half of your week basically. Did you ever fly home Monday through Wednesday, or would you spend the time in Vegas?
I mean, there was time in between me winning and the show. Not very much.
Right.
But there was time. And so I got to go home back to school and to see my friends. And then it was out to Vegas.
Yeah. It's a crazy place to be for a 12-year-old, especially if you're on the performing side.
No, yeah, it is crazy. Usually after you win, that's where you want to be, and you want the Vegas residency, but I didn't. I was 13. I was like, this is not the place for me, maybe yet, and that's when we decided what's best for me is to go on the road.
Right. And then, like you mentioned just a bit ago, is the fact that with you getting older and understanding more about it and having more of a say, you can now, and know who you are, you can build a show around what you want rather than saying, early on it's like, you've made it, this is what the network or the TVs want you to do, go do this, just do that and you'll be great.
Yeah.
But now, like I said, as you get longer in your career, you start to do what you want to do, and you start to, with the rise of social media and the reach of all that, you see what people really want from you as well. Like, because people, you read your comments and stuff, and they're like, well, what about this, and you kind of, take all that in and build a show around that. Yeah,
it is. When I got to start traveling on my own, it was really nice to have the creative liberty, for sure. But it's interesting, whenever I talk to a lot of people who watch me on the show, sometimes the only thing they've seen me do is the 3-minute performances on AGT.
Yeah.
And so whenever I invite friends to shows, they're like, I had no idea, because I do an hour and a half all on my own. Yeah. And so I had no idea you did all of this, and you do your own show. And so it's always like, yeah. For what I love about growing up is now I kind of at this point where I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And so I started writing music, which has been awesome. I started in quarantine, because we all did new things in quarantine.
Yes.
But I sing about 4 original songs in my show now that are unreleased. So that was exciting, and I have a new puppet that I have implemented in, and wrote a lot of the material myself, and it's been a lot of fun.
Talk about that kind of music side a bit more, and I know previous podcast guests Maggie and Shane you're performing with next.
Yeah.
I know you have a great friendship with them, the Imaginaries, and it's funny, their story, how they came about, is pretty awesome. But how did you guys meet? And I guess Maggie's got a great voice, but Shane can play a guitar like nobody else.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
How does that come about? And not just them, but other Oklahoma artists as well.
Well, funny thing, the first time I ever met them, I was at Toby Keith's house. It's just a funny story. They were kind of playing for his benefit party, and I got to meet them, and they were so kind, down to earth. And then fast forward 2-3 years, I auditioned for this movie. It's called A Cowgirl Song, and originally auditioned for the lead, but they thought I was just a little too young. So Maggie and Shane, they produced the movie, and they're like, oh my gosh, let's let her be the little sister. And so I got to play the little sister, the main character, and it was just a blast. And it's a musical movie, and they wrote all the music for the soundtrack. But I got to write a song for my character with them that'll also go on the soundtrack, called Just Breathe. So that's been really fun, and they've been really great mentors to me as well in the music writing aspect of my life. So
Yeah. Talk a bit about the comedy stuff, because probably stuff that probably don't think people realize is the fact that, like, you are hilarious. And just kind of like the craft of writing comedy and trying it out as well. Because, you know, by the time you're on stage doing a show, saying jokes and stuff, I mean, you've said those jokes thousands of times before, whether it's in the mirror to friends or whatever. Like, talk about kind of the comedy and how the comedy evolves based on the audience as well.
This is a good,
Because comedy can be pretty
question.
raw and, you know, I mean, it can be, depending on where you watch your comedy, it can be pretty bad in some areas too, right? That's why it's comedy.
I think, you know, the writing process for me is interesting. I think the best way that has worked for me is I know my puppets so well because, I mean, I created them. And so their personalities, and it's like I've created this universe around them, like Harry Potter world. You know, you create your own, write your own narrative and story. And so I've tried, you know, to write for the puppets and, you know, around their personalities, and, you know, I know what they would say and what they would do and how they would react to this and what's going on in their lives. You know what I mean? It's so like, but it's also been a big collaborative effort too, because I think I work super well with other people as well. Because my brother Dalton, he's 22, and he helps me with all my social media, and so we write stuff from my social media together. And it's funny because he knows my puppets too, and so we just write together, and it's been a blast. But yeah, there's this super fun joke in my show about all the puppets going to Vegas without me on a road trip. And they did not include me in this road trip. And the whole show, I'm trying to figure out what they all did in Vegas. Yeah. And at the end, we finally find out, which I'm not going to tell you. You got to come to the show.
Got to come to the show. That's totally fine. The other cool part, and you just mentioned social media, is like, I mean, you know, that's where you promote. That's where everyone mostly sees you, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever it is, for the grandparents that are on Facebook, that is. You know, it's become a huge part of building a brand. And what has that been like for you, you know, getting to an age where you can actually understand it and post a lot of it yourself and be, you know, not... What I'm trying to say is you're not like 8-9 years old, like, oh, I have to run a social media page and I have 1 million followers, right? You know, you're at an age where you can actually put you and your personality into that page, which is a great thing because that's what people want to see of you. Yeah. What's that been like, having a social media and taking a hold of it yourself and putting stories out and just being you? Yeah,
it's been crazy because, like I said, my demographic and my audience is so vast and so multi-generational, and so I have my Facebook fans and my Instagram fans, and it's like Instagram are my peers and the people my age, and then Facebook are the people a little bit older than me. And it's funny because, you know, I'll post on Instagram and Facebook the same post, and it's like a picture of me in a cute new outfit, like having fun or getting coffee, and the Facebook people are like, we want to see the puppets. We don't want to see you model. And then like Instagram's like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so different. And so we've tried to figure out, you know, how to cater to both. And then TikTok is super multi-generational. I feel like everyone loves pretty much anything on there. Yeah. But TikTok has been so fun. TikTok is my biggest platform. I have 4 million followers on there, which is just mind-boggling. But it's been fun. They love to see the puppets. They eat that up. But especially when I kind of combine puppets with cultural things that are happening and the trends and putting my own spin on it, it's been fun. Yeah. Well, I think the fun thing about it too is that you can literally do it from home. Right. Yeah. Like you know, you can be home. You don't have to go to a studio. You don't have to be in LA or on a plane somewhere. You can do it from home with a decent lighting setup, and you're, you know, 'cause like I said, everyone just wants to see you with the puppets doing what you do. So that must be fun to do, especially for mum and dad, not have to jump on a plane and be like, where do we need to go now? It is crazy what we do with my videos. I mean, I need to post a behind the scenes video. We did one. I'll show it to you after because it's hilarious. Where I had to get inside the dryer at my house. And I didn't tell my mom that I was doing it. And so
Are we top loading the dryer, or are we side loading?
It's a side load, but it'll make more sense when you see it. But I had to get inside the dryer with Petunia.
Yeah.
And the video did so well. But it's crazy with TikTok. It's hit or miss. I'll put in so much effort into a video, and I'm like, oh, this is a great video, and it flops completely. And then when I'm just like, not even trying, and I post a video, and it gets so many views. It's like, what is happening? But it's interesting trying to navigate it.
Who do you look up to in the social media world as far as like creating content and trying to see what other people do? Because to that point, it is very hit and miss with content. And, some people say just keep posting, being you, and it'll take care of itself. Or other people really dive into the algorithm and take that and really try and study that stuff.
I haven't really gotten into the algorithm or, this is when you need to post and this is how often you need to post, because, for me, that's just when the fun gets taken out of it, and that becomes too much.
It becomes a business then, right?
Yeah. And, I don't want it to become like that. And it's, social media already can be so toxic. And so try to always keep it lighthearted. But I just post whenever we get a really great video that we feel good about, and then, I post it, and then sometimes I'll just post a random singing video. So it's just like, not a lot of effort in the strategic part of it, mostly just the creative and like, what will people think is funny or blah, blah, blah. So.
Have you had people come to you and say, you should be a YouTuber and you should post, 2 times a week and Thursdays and Sundays, and like, you just thought, no, it's just not what I want to do? Yeah,
I have, but I wouldn't call myself a social media influencer.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, that is just not my passion, and that's not what I do every day, or it's not how I make a living. And so it's mostly just an creative outlet, which is fun, but also keep myself out there. And so
I agree with that, because a lot of, not the way you started, a lot of people who are in YouTube started out just on YouTube, right? And now,
which is crazy.
They would probably give a lot of things up to do what you have done, and sometimes the other way around. But coming back to, I guess, present day, you're doing your own shows, you're touring around now, you're trying to get into movies and pursue acting as well. What's that like? How fun is that?
That's interesting.
And especially with now our new kind of movie business in Oklahoma City as well. That must be exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. I used to do theater, and so acting was always so exciting for me, and something I really had always wanted to pursue. And then, I went on the show, and then all of this happened, and craziness. And now I'm kind of full circle getting back into it again. And so, I auditioned for things, and when I auditioned for this movie, it's just, I see every audition as an opportunity to practice and kind of study the craft and how it all works, because it's kind of an area that I don't know. And so it's been fun. And so getting to debut in this movie that was filmed here was just so fun and super special to me for my first movie experience, at least, because it was filmed here where I live, and everyone was super supportive. The atmosphere was great. And so after, I'm like, I could totally see myself doing that more. And so, I love it. Acting is fun, and it's something that is fun for me to tackle and challenge myself to learn. Just like ventriloquism, I'm just like, I just want to learn how to do that. So
as you mentioned here, as you grow and as you evolve and you get older in age, and your passions might change just like they did when you were younger, and the stories change now. You're building your own, building out your own tours and doing a lot more material, making a lot more decisions yourself, figuring out who you are. Where does the Darci Lynne of today want to be? Do you want to see yourself into acting as an Oscar-winning actor? Do you see yourself touring more? Like, where right now, what would you say is, where you want to go?
Well, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I kind of want to do everything.
Yeah.
One of my biggest inspirations is Kristen Chenoweth, and so she grew up here and came out of here, and when I see her career and look at her career, it's just like she has done absolutely everything. She's written music, she's been on Broadway, TV, acting. She's done everything, and so that's that's kind of the goal, the vision, because especially music. I've become really passionate about writing music over this last year. And so I would just love to put out an album or an EP or something like that. I just think, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
And then, maybe have my own variety show. That would be sick. That's a dream.
Yeah.
And we'll just see what happens. I don't know. Just taking it step by step.
The good thing
still
is,
in high school.
Right. The good thing is, you turn 18 towards the end of this year. Like, you've got plenty of life left. You've plenty of decisions to make, plenty of avenues to go.
Yeah.
This is the time to try everything you want to try, because
True.
you'll really figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, with our live audience, which is awesome, does anybody have any questions that I can repeat for you? Michelle, go ahead.
I'd like to understand, how do you know you can do ventriloquism? You said you saw someone in a pageant doing it, but how do you then try that yourself to figure out, I have this talent or I don't?
When people ask me that, it's like I almost don't know how to answer, because when I started, I taught myself how to do it, and it automatically didn't come naturally. I did have to work at it and figure out little tips and pointers, and I looked up a lot of YouTube videos, and I talked about a ventriloquist coach, which is an interesting story. His name's Gary Owen, and he used to live here. I entered this local talent show called Edmund's Got Talent, and so that was my first ever performance as a ventriloquist, and it was 2 weeks after I got my puppet.
Thrown in the deep end. Let's just see how it goes.
And I did that performance, and I ended up winning that talent competition.
Yeah.
At the age of 10. And in the audience was a couple who went to a church here, who went to Gary's church. Showed in the video, they're like, "You'll never believe this. This girl's yodeling with her mouth closed." And showed it to him, and he was like, "Oh my gosh." And I guess he saw something in me, or some potential, and contacted, somehow got our contact, and my dad's like, "Let's look this guy up."
Some weird old man wants to meet you.
Because he was,
He's also a ventriloquist.
he had to make sure he was legit.
Well, yeah, of course.
And, he did his internet sleuthing.
Yeah.
And
just being a dad. I would have done the same thing.
Totally being a dad.
Yeah.
And we ended up meeting him at Chili's.
Yeah. Nice neutral ground. Yeah.
Neutral ground at Chili's. And I have been working with him now for 7 years.
Amazing.
And I don't know where I would be without him, honestly. He taught me so much. I mean, I got the gist of it, but he had been doing it for 30 plus years when I met him, because ventriloquism was way bigger back then. And so he taught me, the manipulation with the rods that I do, and lip control and enunciation and all the other, reacting to the puppet, having the puppet react to me, the different voices. I mean, everything that goes into the ventriloquism act he helped me refine and taught me, and he helped me my whole season on AGT. Yeah.
I love how a lot of your team is very Oklahoma based, right? Definitely keeps you grounded, and you can all relate to each other.
Oh yeah.
It's just amazing how it's kind of come around like that. That, like you said, at the time, you're like, some strange guy wants to meet you. He's seen a video of you performing.
Yeah. It was interesting.
That's awesome. And still your coach today.
Yeah, I literally saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
He lives in Florida now, but he's in town. So, yep, he's the best.
That's awesome.
He is basically, he helps produce my live shows. He's helped me produce them all 5 years. Because, he's been in the radio business, and he's performed himself, so he knew how shows kind of go about. And so he runs lights and graphics and stuff at my shows for me, still to this day. And that's why we have such a little inner circle, and built it up from the ground with my family and just a couple people outside my family. So it's just crazy how we've done it all ourselves.
Do we have any others? Questions? Come on, we must have something. Does Mom and Dad want to ask a question or know a story that we haven't told yet that we want to talk about?
Let's see if I have any funny... I do have a lot of funny stories from on the road.
Tell them one about Katie.
Okay. So, Katie was my very first puppet ever. And I don't know if I mentioned this.
Right?
Yes. So Katie was the eBay present.
Okay.
And then I ended up doing another talent competition here called Oklahoma's Got Talent. Ended up winning that. And I won prize money. And so I used the prize money to
upgrade
and design and kind of have a puppet maker make me an actual ventriloquist puppet. And we just kind of gave Katie a makeover. So she's still the same character, just she looks different. But we were in Chicago, and it was a snowy day, and we are driving to the venue, and I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and all of a sudden I just hear, "Stop the car!" And we look in the rearview mirror, and the back of the car is open, and Katie's suitcase is just rolling down the road, in the middle of the road. And cars are like coming, and my mom's like, "Stop the car!" And she like jumps out of the car into traffic and grabs Katie. Yeah. And there's just, when we get to the venue, we open her up, and she's not a scratch on her.
Cases are great.
The case came through.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh my gosh, because we don't check the puppets, we carry them on. And you should see us at the airport. We look absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
How
we
many
look
do you
like
have
we're
right now?
moving. We between the three of us, we had like 10 pieces of luggage.
Yeah. So how many total puppets do you have?
4 cases, but 5 puppets.
Okay.
Petunia and Oscar travel together. But
Which are here today.
Yeah. And it's because if we checked them and we lost one, I wouldn't have a show.
Right.
And so
Yeah, it kind of ruins the show when you show up and you're like,
I'm like,
sorry guys,
can't really do this.
Gonna have to sing for you. Sorry, it's just gonna be me singing. Bologna, what do you have?
What inspired the design for the puppets?
Yeah. So most of my puppets were actually a gift to me. So Petunia was a gift to me, got her, then gave her a personality, and she's evolved a lot. I made her when I got her, I made her super shy and timid and sweet. And now she, I won the show, and so I kind of was like, all right, let's seize this opportunity, and made her a complete diva. And she got the big head. So that's her. And then Edna, I actually got at the ventriloquist convention. They have these rooms called dealer's rooms, and it sounds bad, but it's just a bunch of puppets in rooms with puppet creators, and it's all of their puppets they've made that they're trying to sell. And Edna was sitting on the table, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I knew I wanted an old lady.
Yeah.
And so I picked her up, immediately just automatically had a voice and was already cracking jokes. And so I was like, this is perfect. We're meant to be. And so I bought her. And then Oscar kind of has a funny story. He was a donation to me from Gary. He was just sitting in Gary's office going unused. And this was right after my first audition, and I made it to the live shows. And we were sitting around my living room, and we're like, what am I going to do now? Because I had no puppets then. I hadn't had time to develop them. And so we're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for the first live show? And Gary's like, well, I have this like mouse just sitting in my office. I can bring him over. And so brought him over. Oscar was created, introduced, and it's just crazy. And then Ivan, the newest one, he's purple, has one eye, and Australian. You don't want to hear my Australian accent, it's really bad.
Oh, no, I do.
No, you don't.
No, I do.
No. But I designed him. I knew kind of what I wanted him to look like, and had this really talented puppet maker. His name's Barry Gordmer, and his puppet company is called Handemonium. And so that's how Ivan was created. And Ivan is different to the other ones because all of the other puppets, it's kind of like I'm a big sister figure over them, and they cause trouble. And I'm like, gotta keep them all in check. But Ivan is kind of like we're two peas in a pod and cause trouble together.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you see kind of like creating, out of all these characters, creating I'm me being 31, I'm thinking of like the Looney Tunes, right? Because I used to watch that all the time, right? Or Tom and Jerry. Like, do you ever see like having that kind of, and forgive me if you already have this, I didn't know if you did, but having like, like a series of, or I mean, now everyone's talking about NFTs, but like having a show, a cartoon show that like, and you are the voice to everything.
Yeah, there's been lots of talk of that. I don't really have interest in doing something like Sesame Street because I feel like my act is a little more evolved than that. And I've talked about like a variety show with my puppets, or like a sitcom with them. I think it'd be so funny. But that's something that I gotta figure out, gotta brainstorm. But we have talked about it for sure.
Well, like Mrs. Doubtfire, I love Mrs. Doubtfire and having that too.
Oh, well, kind of. I had this YouTube series called The Spin with Darci Lynne, and it was just a YouTube series with lots of different videos with the puppets. I did Cooking for Dummies, and it was me cooking, but we had kind of had the puppets pop in at different moments and just critique the heck out of me. It was funny. And then I've done like little music videos with them, with cover songs, and did a reality TV episode with the puppets, kind of like Kardashian style, where they have like, those, what are they called? Where they sit and they just stare into the camera and talk to you separately from the storyline. I don't know. Confessionals. That's what we did, confessionals too, and it was so funny. But mostly my TikTok is most evolved with all of the funny videos with the puppets, for sure.
You trial a lot of your material through social media to see what works.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah.
Awesome. Well, do we have anything else? Are we good? Well, thank you so much for coming down. This has been an absolute pleasure. When I told the ladies here that we had you coming, they were, I think, a lot more excited. And we said, well, great, let's trial it with a live audience. And it's been awesome to have you here down the Hall of Fame.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to interviewing you in 10 years to have a different story and see where we're at now. Maybe face on the wall somewhere.
Maybe I'll be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Wink, wink, hint, hint.
Yeah. Well, the selection process just finished, right, for this year. Yeah. So the only way, some people don't know this, the only way that you will be considered is if somebody nominates you.
Okay.
So you have to be nominated. And the nomination process is someone else, obviously you can't, somebody in your family could nominate you, but you can't nominate yourself. I've tried.
I've tried.
But, Wait,
no. Petunia could nominate me.
There you go.
Sure.
That would be awesome. So
no, Petunia would not nominate me. She would nominate herself for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how the process works. And a lot of people are like, well, why isn't this person in it? Well, because no one's nominated them. So for people listening, that's a little kind of info on that. But yes, in 10 years, hopefully you have a face on the wall in here and you have that medal around your neck and you've been on stage and given an acceptance speech at the Hall of Fame. So
we'll see.
Is there anything you want to kind of finish with for people listening that what do you tell little girls that come up to you? What do you tell little boys? Kind of stuff like that.
Let's see. My advice has always just been to be yourself and to not let anyone or anything hold you back. And just to know if you put your mind to it, then 110% you can do it for sure.
And you can do it right here from being in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming down. Absolute pleasure. It really means a lot that someone of your caliber, of your schedule, as busy as you are, to bring mom and dad down here and bring the case too. We have Petunia in the case too, right?
She is. Maybe. I know. So she can make an appearance. I know she probably wants to.
So thank you so much for everyone listening. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
If you're looking for something fun to do with your family on April 22nd, I recommend you totally come on down to the Tower Theater. I'm putting on a concert with my good friends, the Imaginaries Band. It is going to be a blast. It is going to be a night filled with music from my new movie, A Cowgirl Song, original music from me and original music from the Imaginaries, and even the song we wrote together for the movie. We're so excited to see you guys. You can get your tickets at towertheaterokc.com.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma stories through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.